I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 123, Cognitive Dissonance. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Heal from Infidelity, episode 123 today. I'm so glad you're here. Before I dive into today's episode, I know my sound might be a little off today. I am traveling. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, but I'm having trouble connecting my speaker to my laptop. It's not working properly. So I'm just recording through my computer. I suppose you can hear me just fine, but it's not going to be the quality you're used to. I apologize for that. A couple of weeks ago, I decided very last minute to take my kids to the Oregon coast. Not all my kids, in fact, only 4 of them. I took my girls who are about to start high school and one of my boys that's about to start his senior year and my little baby girl. And I took which of the kids at home could go. And we rented a little beach house on the Oregon coast. It has been absolutely magical, just magical. So I've mentioned in past episodes that I grew up in Oregon, grew up very poor. I lived all through my junior high years with no electricity, no running water. We had a porta potty on the side of the road. For any of you who don't know what that is, it's like one of those toilets that you find like at fairs, things like that, a portable toilet that once a week somebody would come clean it. And the school bus came and picked me up and would pick me up at that porta potty on the side of the road so everybody saw it, and just lots of stories. We were really broke. And to be able to take my children here and to be able to rent a place on the beach, it's just a small little place, but to be able to rent a house on the beach has been really amazing for me to share that with my kids. I have not taken them here in 10 years. My parents moved away right after I graduated from high school, so I've only come back a handful of times, but it still feels like home. I was able to take my kids to where I graduated from high school. I was the student body president of that school. I was the captain of my cross-country team. Lots of really important things happened there for me in my own growth and development. And to be able to share that with some of my kids has just been really, really special for me. So I'm so glad that I decided very spontaneously to come. It was a 13-hour drive, long drive, especially with a toddler. We're heading back starting tomorrow, but it's been wonderful. And sometimes we just need to do things like that. So anyway, but I wanted to share a little bit about that before diving into this podcast. I hope that when something is calling you, something that feels important, something that feels like it could be healing for you, that you listen and go and honor yourself and honor the things that you need. That's really been what this has been for me. I've really needed it. I've just been dealing with some tricky things lately, and I just felt the call to go to the ocean and to share that time before my kids go back to school. And it's been remarkable, a really wonderful time. Okay, so now on to the episode 123 about cognitive dissonance. This has been one that I've been thinking about for a long time. It's an important episode. It's one that I hope that you take your time and listen to. It might be one that you go back to and listen again, okay? It's really important. What is cognitive dissonance and why am I covering this topic? It's something that I see my clients feeling a lot of the time without really knowing that that's what it is. I'm hoping that by defining what it is, helping you understand what the symptoms are of cognitive dissonance, you can understand more about yourself. You can know what needs to happen to stop the discomfort, to ease the discomfort, and you can work through some of the things that are causing some of the conflict in you, especially relating to infidelity. So what is cognitive dissonance? It's a state of discomfort resulting from conflicting ideals, beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors. Okay, so let me say that word again, from conflicting ideals, beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors. It can create a feeling of unease, a feeling of being unsettled. It can show up in many different ways. It can show up as anxiety, embarrassment, shame, stress, regret, guilt, sadness. Cognitive dissonance was first introduced by a man named Leon Festinger, who taught that it usually shows up around 3 different situations: forced compliance, decision making, and new information. We're going to look at all 3 of these today, okay? Forced compliance means acting against one's beliefs. This might mean agreeing to something on the outside while inwardly screaming about it, okay? Maybe knowing that you're not okay with something and doing it anyway, or saying yes anyway. Some of you may be in this situation that you still give your spouse or your partner access to you, but you know that he's still involved with the affair partner. You're not okay with it, but you try to tell yourself a story about it that kind of helps you to feel a little bit better. You say you're giving him time to figure it out. You say you're waiting to see if he changes. So outwardly, you try to look calm and cool, but on the inside, you're in turmoil. Okay, I hear this scenario all the time of knowing that they're still in contact with the affair partner and trying to be chill about it, like trying to just kind of hold on. And this can be one of these kind of forced compliance situations. Nobody's actually forcing you, nobody's making you, but emotionally, it can feel that way. You can feel trapped. Like, what else am I supposed to do here? So what's the solution here, or what's creating this problem? The problem is created because if we slow down enough to look at what our core values are, let's say about loyalty or about being completely committed in a relationship, you're going to have some cognitive dissonance. You're going to have some of that conflict of the conflicting ideas about things, like that what's going on the outside, the things that you're agreeing to do not line up with what's going on your insides. That will create cognitive dissonance, okay? Again, forced compliance, I want you to hold that a little bit loosely, okay? It's not necessarily somebody forcing you, but we do, as humans, we're pretty good at manipulating each other. We're pretty good at doing things to try to gain control over one another. And it can feel very forced, even if it's technically not, okay? Now, let's move on to decision making. Decision making can create conflict because sometimes we might be looking at 2 seemingly good decisions or 2 decisions that both feel bad. And either way, we feel stuck. Either way, there's this dissonance inside, this conflict inside of 2 seemingly conflicting things. Like, I can't win either way. Either way, it's not good. Or either way, I think these are both okay. So why doesn't one feel easier than the other? So the obvious example of this, because of who you are, my audience here, dealing with infidelity, is the decision about staying or going after infidelity. My friends, this is such a hugely personal decision with so much individual nuance. You may have people telling you to leave, and yet something deep in you says to wait. This can create cognitive dissonance. Inside, you might feel this calm. You might feel something that you can't quite describe in words, but you feel it inside, that to hold on, to wait. And on the outside, there's dissonance. On the outside, people are saying, you need to get out. What are you doing? Why are you staying? And you might be even judging yourself, going, why are you staying? What's wrong with you? Where's your self-respect? But inside, you're feeling this voice that's saying, hold on, hold on. Okay, this can create some cognitive dissonance. What if you can see that he's doing all the things he technically should be doing, right? He's remorseful, he's getting some help, he's trying to understand his decisions, and yet you know deep down that it's over. You know deep down that you want to leave. This is going to create some dissonance. It's going to create a conflict between your mind and your heart. Your mind might be saying, but look, you can patch this up. You can fix this. Look, he's trying. What's wrong with you? Why isn't it enough? And yet inside, your answer is no. That can create some dissonance. Another area it can come up around decision making is when you're looking at making a decision that goes against the beliefs and values you were handed, maybe as a child. I have clients who committed in their marriage vows to never divorce. They were taught that it is wrong. They were taught that it is a sin. So they're looking at a marriage that they know would create a lot more pain for them to stay in, but they have this internal conflict of feeling like they might be sinning against God. They feel this conflict between doing what feels best for them inside and what has been socially or religiously taught to them. To go deeper into this, sometimes when we are making decisions, as religious people especially, we might be thinking about doing something, and when we think about actually following through with the decision, it might feel really uncomfortable. It might feel yucky. It might feel dark and scary. And as religious people, we may interpret this discomfort around this decision as a wrong decision. We may feel that discomfort and go, oh my gosh, look, I must be getting this wrong. See, I shouldn't feel bad. If it were a right decision, I should feel good. And we can use that feeling of it being uncomfortable as being wrong. That's dangerous. It's dangerous because sometimes making decisions, a lot of the time, making decisions is very uncomfortable. It's very, very uncomfortable because inevitably, when we make any decision, to decide is to cut off the thing that we're not deciding on. It's to go all in on the thing that we're deciding, and we're cutting off the thing that we're not. There will inevitably be some discomfort, some loss at saying no to the thing that we're saying no to. And if we are interpreting that as, oh my gosh, look, I feel bad, so I must be getting it wrong. This must be a bad decision. I must be sinning. It must be a bad decision, is to keep ourselves stuck in this endless cycle of indecision. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later and how to help yourself through that, okay? Now, I've mentioned this before, but when I was going through divorce, I was really stuck in this cognitive dissonance. I remember being so confused about how divorce could be like the right answer. And I was and am a person that prays. And my faith has evolved over the years into a different faith than it was 10 years ago, but I still consider myself somebody who is spiritual. And at that time, I prayed a lot. I really was seeking guidance. I was seeking direction. And it was so confusing to me that when I thought about staying in my marriage, it was a no. Like, you need to go. You need to go. Like, I knew it. I knew I needed to go. I knew it was no longer a good place for me or my children. And yet I had this cognitive dissonance because I was taught so much about families and about the significance of family, the significance of marriage, how sacred marriage was, and how could divorcing my husband be the best thing? It was such a conflict in my mind and my heart that took some time to resolve. And I had to ground myself over and over again in the bigger picture of what it was that I was doing, of what it was that I was protecting my kids from. And it was in doing that I was able to follow through with it. And I will touch back on what I mean by that later in this episode. Okay. So the third thing that can often bring up cognitive dissonance is new information. I am guessing that every single one of you listening to this episode can relate to this one. Let's say that you have deeply held beliefs about something or someone, and then something happens one day that contradicts what you believed. You may have believed that you had some things to work on in the marriage, but that the person you are with would never in a million years be unfaithful. And yet he did, or she did. And so there's this new information that challenges your belief. And for many of you, it challenges a lot of your beliefs. It kind of rocks your world, right? Now, you may have a deeply held belief based on a lot of the things that we're taught in society that once a cheater, always a cheater. And that if you get cheated on, you should leave immediately. And yet, it's not quite the experience you're having with the new information you have about your spouse. You now have some conflicting beliefs because maybe you see some really good, amazing things that may just be worth fighting for. So there's this internal conflict between the first belief about cheaters, always a cheater, and what is actually real for you now, what your actual experience is with this person that you're with. Okay. I'm sure some of you have had this experience in a more neutral setting. For example, when you have like a school teacher that you really like or idolize in some way, and then you learn about their humanity, you see like who they are outside of school. And I remember things like that happening where you see this other side of this person, and it can create this cognitive dissonance of, wait, what? They're more than one person. They're this and they're that. Wait. Or when you have somebody on a pedestal and then you learn some things about them that take them off that pedestal, that can create cognitive dissonance too. This new information. Okay. We can believe in something as being really solidly true. And then we can find out information that challenges that truth claim, and that can create cognitive dissonance, right? There's lots of things about new information that can show up and create this cognitive dissonance, okay? In the end, what this means is that the things that you thought were true may not stand up against what new information you have, and it is creating an enormous discomfort within you. Okay, so what do we do with this dissonance? We can interpret this cognitive dissonance in a very black and white way, like I said before. Like, oh my gosh, I feel really uncomfortable with this, so I must need to go back. I need to go back to what's comfortable. That is our actual natural inclination, but I don't recommend it. It's so easy to use our old reasoning, our old biases to make conclusions about our situation. We may uphold the divorce is never an option narrative because there is some comfort in that. It takes the responsibility off of us to really have to dig in deep. Someone else has already made the decision for us. So we can just hang our hat on that and not go any further and just be the long-suffering, patient person that just sucks it up and deals with it. We can tell ourselves how loving we are, okay? That may sound harsh. I hope that those of you listening don't feel judged by that statement, because guess who was there for quite some time? This girl right here. I just did not think it was an option for a long time. And so I would just, kind of put myself on this little pedestal of how long-suffering and all of those things until I just couldn't do it anymore. And it was no longer in anyone's best interest for me to do that. So please know that there's no judgment there. Okay. Now, the problem with some of that kind of thinking is that in moments of stillness and calm, we may feel something completely different internally. We may feel a sense of self-betrayal. And that sense of self-betrayal can lead to intense dissonance. If the decision was a good one, why does it feel so bad? Right? Again, sometimes we make decisions when we don't have all the information. We may get more information and then hold ourselves to our old decision, saying, I made the decision, I'm sticking with that decision. And this creates dissonance. We may make a decision and then feel the discomfort come up and interpret it as having made the wrong decision, when in reality, what we're doing is we're just stepping out into some unknown and allowing the emotions that come from that choice. And it can be so tempting at this point to turn back, assuming we will feel better, and that we'll feel better if it was truly the right decision, right? That if that was the right decision, it shouldn't be so hard. Again, I do not recommend this, turning back. Rather than going back to what felt safer and more comfortable, I recommend digging deeper. Okay, so let's talk about that. What does that mean? The opposite of cognitive dissonance is cognitive consonance. Again, Leon Festinger, who first came up with the term cognitive dissonance, also defined cognitive consonance. He describes it as a state of mind in which the person's conscious knowledge, attitudes, and awareness are congruent and in harmony with their unconscious emotional or innate beliefs. Okay? In other words, when our thoughts and actions are lined up with what we say and do, it creates cognitive consonance. Our insides match our outsides. The things we feel inside are congruent with what we are doing on the outside. Okay. I'm going to give you an example of this. When I was dating my now husband, we've been married for 7 years. We dated for 2. So we've been together for 9 years now. It was rocky. It was a rocky 2 years. And towards the end of it, I knew inside that it was no longer a healthy relationship for me to be in, because we both had been deeply hurt, different situations. His wife died of cancer. You know my story. And he had a lot of things that he needed to sort through, some things about loyalty and could he really move forward? And of course, taking on 6 children and a new wife and all of these things, right? There was a lot that both of us needed to navigate. But I really struggled with some hot and cold kind of behavior for a while. And it was really getting to the point where it was becoming quite destructive for me and not great for my kids either, to kind of wonder what was going on. Like by this time they had met his kids and we had talked about joining our families, but it was never like all right, it's time to pull the trigger, right? And so I got to the point where I was heartbroken at the thought of really, really letting go. I was crushed, really, really crushed at the thought of really letting go of the relationship. But I knew that I needed to be willing to. And I remember that phone call when I called him up and I broke up and I said, I love you. I know that I love you, but this is no longer working for me. It's no longer a good place for me to be. It's hurting me. And I broke up with him and we both cried. And I remember feeling a lot of grief, feeling really sad. But you know what? There was a peace in my sadness. There was a congruence within myself, because my insides matched my outsides. My outside actions of saying, no, this is no longer working for me, matched how I was feeling on the inside, matched the pain that I was feeling. And I honored it. And I grew my self-trust that day. And I was willing to walk away from it all to honor myself and what I wanted and what I needed. Yes, I felt grief, I felt loss, I felt sadness, but there was this sense of peace in it, because I knew that it was necessary grief and sadness to honor this brave thing that I did. So there was congruence, consonance, okay? Obviously, we figured it out. He literally showed up on my door. Came from Montana and showed up on my door. And this was, I don't even know how much later from that conversation, but he worked through some things. I was totally willing to walk away. And then we figured it out. And we've been married for 7 years now. So anyway, that's just one example of what it looked like for me to follow through, to match my actions with what was going on in the inside. It took a lot of courage. I was really scared. I was really sad. But there was peace in it, okay? How we get to this place is by grounding into the big picture, grounding into our values. We can sure get in our head and into our current circumstances and get really spun out in what to do. When we can ground down into the bigger picture, into our values, into what we want the most, and really ground into that, really align with that, that's what's going to direct our path. Okay? One thing that I want you to try out is, rather than trying to hurry out of dissonance by going back to what you used to believe, I invite you to stay in the dissonance for a while. You can teach your brain that you don't need to have it figured out right away. You can remind yourself that you're in the in-between and that you'll figure this out. You don't need to rush it. The consonance will come when you're ready to take the actions that line up with what is most true for you on the inside. Moving through the dissonance rather than running back to the comfort of what is known and sure will create growth and emotional resilience in you. You will redefine what truth is for you. Your idea of what truth was before can change, and it's okay. When we get more information, we get to change what is true. We can decide what is true based on what we know, And then when we get more information, we can broaden our definition of truth. It's pretty remarkable, right? Doing this will help prepare you for upcoming decisions, upcoming actions that will require strength and mental toughness from you. My friends, this dissonance that you're feeling is a sign that you are thinking in a more critical way, that you're opening up to more critical thinking, that you are leaning into listening to what you have to say. Don't rush it away because it feels bad. Lean in. Lean in and listen to your deeper wisdom of what is true for you, and let that truth lead your path forward into cognitive consonance. It's coming, okay? It's coming. What are your values? What do you value? What do you want for your marriage, for your relationships? How do you want to be treated? What do you want your life to be like? Go there and let that be your guide of what actions to take moving forward. That will create this cognitive consonance. That will bring the calm. That will bring the insides matching your outsides and vice versa. Okay? That's the episode I have for you today. Before I wrap this up, by the time this comes out, I will have taught a class about getting your life back after infidelity. I am just opening the doors to a brand new program called Get Your Life Back After Infidelity. And in this program, one of the things that I go deep on with my clients is really designing their life after infidelity, really designing it with the foundations built on your values, your personal standard that you create for yourself inside the program, where you build this life on the most crucial, critical things that you want to have in it, where you move forward from the deepest place within you, and you invite those around you to join you in creating something really amazing that you want to be in. If this sounds like something that you want support with, I invite you to go grab a spot, a consultation. It's free. You come talk with me, get your questions answered. It's pretty amazing. I'm taking pieces that were the best pieces of my No and 90 program, and I've added to it. And it's a pretty amazing program. We start in September. I'd love to have you join. All right. Thank you, my friends. As always, it's a delight to be here. Keep going. Keep going. You will not be in this spot of pain and hurt forever. Keep going. All right. So much love to you. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.